Hello, my name's Alan. You may or may not have seen my first post about my ankle fusion, or arthrodesis as it's technically known. I have to apologise for those who did see the first offering for the quality of the filming due to my lack of experience and the very poor lighting. And that covered the period from up to, or just after the operation until the 6-week mark. And I had planned to come back to do this after 12 weeks, but that's now actually run out to 16 weeks post the operation. Basically, the second 6 weeks went quite well. It was still largely non-load bearing, which has been important. I went and saw the specialist again, and we had a second set of x-rays, and this is the how they came out. You can probably see there that we've got the 4 screws fitted. It won't be easy to see the sort of fusing that we've got, but it's the honeycomb that occurs between the top of the fibia and the tibula, and of course the talus, which is the ankle bone there. But the specialist was happy with the progress of those, and he said that he would be happy now to move to the 60% weight bearing, and under the guidance of the rehab people and the physiotherapist. It was a nice change to get on to some weight bearing. It made moving around much easier. It's important to point out that rehabilitation is not automatic. It's something that you have to actually apply for. You get a referral from your specialist or GP. In my case, I had the private cover, and so when that's submitted to your insurance company, you get the approval for the rehab program. You then go on your first meeting and meet with the physiotherapists and work out what sort of goals that you aim for during your recovery, and also what modes of rehabilitation you want to enter into. In my case it was, and I think in most for this sort of injuries where the facilities are available, to go to gym exercise work, and then also into pool recovery. The pool's very important because this gives you the buoyancy and takes off that weight bearing, and you're not with your crutches or boots, whatever, and you're able to get a very good idea of the movement, and also to change the level of weight bearing, and also the type of exercises that you're doing. I found both the gym, and to have those in succession. Generally I had one at 9 AM on the Monday, and hopefully followed at about 10 by the pool, and then repeating that on the Friday, and then every few weeks you had to see the physio after your session. The going into physio is the wrong word. It's not confronting, but it does impact on you, I think, both psychologically and physically, depending on how much experience or how used you may or may not be to working out in a gymnasium, let alone the pool. And you're projected into a world where all the people who are on the program with you have similar, some much more difficult, some less difficult problems that they are facing and having rehab for. And I think it's fair to say you need to get your mind as well as your body right on how you feel and approach this. It's important to point out in the whole rehabilitation phase, particularly moving from the partial 60% weight bearing up to full weight bearing, that it's very important to approach it in a very proactive and positive way. It's a bit easy sometimes when in the gym, or even I suppose more particularly a little bit in the pool, to slip into a situation where you're doing a lot more talking than action with other people that you meet. They're generally quite engaging, and you make some good associations out of it, but you do need to recognise that you're there to be doing a gym program, and then the same in the pool. So you do have to concentrate, set what sort of program you're able to achieve in both situations, and make sure that you do get through the program each time you visit, and also with the aid of the instructors, that you're improving, that you're progressing, that you're upping the levels of exercises and that to achieve the sort of results that you're looking for. The other important thing I found during this rehab phase is that in really listening to your body, you move between lesser use of the things like the crutches and the moon boot and the other sort of footwear that you're wearing. I progress between the moon boot with crutches, the moon boot without crutches. Then I put on a pair of fairly strong work boots that I've used to, and use those with and without crutches, and also a very good pair of comfort shoes, sport type shoes. I've got a pair of Merrells that work very well for me, and that you move in this 60 to 100% weight bearing situation between those, but listening to your body and how in my case the ankle is feeling, and make sure that you give yourself some rest phases. Sometimes I'll go back into the boot and or full crutches when you're going down the street and everything for a whole day, and then before moving back and limiting the use of those appliances. So this is another important factor of this rehabilitation. Now at week 15, I'm getting around quite well, and significantly have good periods without crutches, but as I said, always listening to the body, and some days are better than others. For the first time last week, in addition to my 2 sets of rehab on each Monday and Friday, I went back on the Wednesday to my own gym program that I've been used to going for many years. And what I did is went on all the exercises that I did except the walker, funnily enough, and made sure that I lessened the weights and also the repetitions for each, and I got through all of them that I do normally within a period of an hour. So that's 50 minutes without the last 10 minutes on the walker, and I didn't overdo it, so I wasn't left too sore, but just a little discomfort, and it was quite interesting, as you might expect, to see just how much condition and strength you had lost in the 3 odd months or plus 3.5, nearly 4 months that you've been away from your usual gym program. But I was very happy to get back there, and so now I'm settling into 2 lots of rehab and 1 gymnasium program each week, and the next thing that I'll look to do is be getting on the push bike. As I said, I just wanted to run through a little bit of the visual for you in terms of the use of appliance and the transition to weight bearing, 60% and then up to 100, and how that process works. So what we've got now is the moon boot and the use of the crutches, which I'll do first, and of course really this makes it very easy to get whatever amount of weight bearing you want on the affected foot, like that. And it's the amount of pressure that you're putting on your crutches will determine how much you're weight bearing. I mean, really, you know, you can see that sort of thing there. So, and then now what I'll do is just with the weight with the crutches off and using just the moon boot, you can, you know, roll, and of course you've got your foot fully protected, and that is full weight bearing there. And then moving to the idea of 1 crutch and the moon boot. People, I think, vary as to which side they use the crutch. For me, this is what supported it and gave less twist on my knee and or in the hip. So I found that that worked for me. What I'll now do is switch into the basic recreation shoe and show you how the similar sort of thing works, and also look maybe at the use of a walking stick. So I'll just change over now. Bring the basic shoes, in my case the Merrills, or a pair of sports shoes and that sort of thing, and the same process of looking at the amount of weight bearing that you can do, the amount of pressure on the crutches, and then as you lighten that pressure, the important point to roll forward on the foot like that, and then you can release the crutches and get the greater weight bearing as you progress. You might just look too, as we go here, at the back of my calves. It's often quite a shock when you see it later on to see how much wastage that you've got. I got a good amount, or a bad amount of wasting when I had my original parachuting accident 30 years ago, and of course this has just decreased that amount of wastage, but I'm assured by the people who know that that shouldn't affect the long-term walking and my gait. You've got the same thing, you can use a single crutch, or some people might prefer a walking stick. I found the walking stick not quite as supportive, and I'll show you again. I think it works a fair bit better with the 1 crutch. I think you get more support going up the arm. So on. And now we'll move to putting the crutch away and just that full weight bearing and slowly rolling through, as I said. Now, the important point that I want to make, and the tendency, if you're not thinking about it and you try and go too quick, is to sort of hobble a bit and throw the foot off to the right, which affects your hip and your knee. So it's very important when you're going full or even partial weight bearing that you get everything as square as you can, so that you're just taking it slowly, rolling through, and concentrating on getting that good gait. So anyway, that's a little bit of the visual that I might show you, that I thought I'd show you, and I'll just quickly show you the other boots and appliances that help this process of going from the partial to full weight bearing, and I hope that helps you. I just quickly wanted to show you a little bit about the footwear. This particular moon boot that I actually bought at a garage sale some time ago, and then later on I bought this new one at the relevant appliance shop. But as you can see the difference in the height, I actually, for me, found this one here a fair bit more workable and comfortable, and gave me the protection that was required. So some people also of course have the pump up style of moon boot. I mentioned my work boots, and they certainly look like they've had a good bit of work, haven't they? And they have had over time, and actually wore them overseas because I couldn't wear the ordinary footwear prior to the operation and that sort of thing. But this type of boot with the side zip, and that can also provide quite a lot of support for those in that transition period going from partial to full weight bearing. But most people sort that out in their own way with what they've got available to them. And just finally there, that neoprene knee pad I've used to help in that process, so that if I am throwing the leg out at all or tend to it, that this helps a little bit with keeping the knee comfortable. So that's pretty much to the progress to this point. The one final comment that I would make is that it's very important to concentrate on your on the proper walking gait. It's quite easy because with an ankle fusion, the pressure going down through the ankle, as you're getting the natural rolling motion of the walk, the pressure goes on the forefoot, the forward part of the foot, because the ankle, the talus and the bones above, all of that's frozen, and you don't have that same plantar, that's the down and dorsiflexion up. And so you, as I think I'd mentioned previously, I've been very fortunate in that I've had virtually no pain at all in the operation area, but you do get, I won't call it pain, but discomfort in that forward part of the foot. And one of the things you can do is tend to be, when you're walking particularly without assistance, you can throw your foot out to the side, and this can result in my case, I found a bit of pain in the knee or even the hip. So you do really need to concentrate on getting that very squared up rolling motion, which is much aided by the crutches, and then having the moon boot on, and even your more ordinary shoes, and concentrate on getting that straight gait. I'm going to be making an appointment with an orthotist to find out what sort of footwear might help the progress of my rehabilitation. So I guess the other thing is that there's clearly a need to be patient. I mean, this is a fairly significant operation that you've had, or procedure, to fuse your ankle, and it's going to take time to get back to proper walking. But everybody seems to suggest that when you have a successful fusion and rehabilitation, that you do get a very, very good outcome. So I'll look to do maybe a third and final one of these at a future time, but hope that this was a little better for you than the first one, and helps those people who are going or intending to go through the same procedure that I've had. Thanks very much for taking the trouble to have a look.